Hey everyone, thanks for stopping by the movie Hangout. Betrayal. Kathleen Kennedy betrays George Lucas. But before I jump into this great article, if you go on over, click subscribe, comment, like, I'd really appreciate it. Okay, so straight from the beginning, George Lucas had a sit-down meeting with Kathleen Kennedy. And the topic of discussion was Star Wars. George Lucas, his vision was, he's like, I'm getting older. I really want my creation to live on for generations after I'm gone. So I don't want to do it, but I'm going to have to bite the bullet and I'm going to have to sell my intellectual property. And the best choice at the time was Disney, because Disney has this enormous machine, this huge infrastructure. They got everything. They got pre-production, production, post-production, advertising, marketing. I mean, they have news networks. I mean, they have, you name it, they got it. Toys, books. I mean, if George Lucas wants to pretty much just like blast Star Wars into another galaxy and make it even bigger, it would only make sense. He would work with Disney. However, unfortunately, he did not predict what it would be like to work with Kathleen Kennedy. Kathleen Kennedy started out as a producer with Amblin Entertainment. Amblin Entertainment is owned by Steven Spielberg. So she took a lot of credit early on in her career for movies like E.T. I think she might even have been working on Close Encounters of the Third Kind. There's a lot of films that she was involved with, but she really wasn't the mind behind it. She just was in the room, part of the team. Fast forward to from when she was with Amblin to now she's with Lucasfilm, and she gave George Lucas his word, or her word, that she was going to stick to his storyline, his canon, stay true to his characters, the spirit of Star Wars and the Jedi and the Force and the Sith. Well, as soon as George signed on the dotted line, that promise evaporated. I mean, it evaporated faster than a drop of water in the Arizona desert. And now here we have George Lucas and Kathleen Kennedy. They're accepting a milestone PGA. Now, if you don't know what that is, it's not the Professional Golf Association. It's the Producers Guild. And so it's the PGA honor from Steven Spielberg. A producer never works alone, is basically the quote of this article. The duo accepted the milestone award from their frequent collaborator at Saturday's 33rd Producers Guild Awards. And what you're going to hear, I'm going to read George Lucas's speech, his short speech, and Kathleen Kennedy's short speech, and you're going to hear the distinction between the two, because they could not be more different. I mean, they're like galaxies apart, and this is why Star Wars is a shell of what it used to be. How it's not special anymore. It's extremely preachy. I mean, it's more preachy than any religious movie that you can watch. It's ridiculous with just leftist politics. So at Saturday's 33rd Annual Producers Guild Awards, Steven Spielberg presented the 2022 Milestone Award to Lucasfilm leaders George Lucas and Kathleen Kennedy. Let's see if I can pause that. Lucas created the production company in the 1970s, and it's best known for spawning the hit franchise Star Wars and Indiana Jones. Introducing the pair, longtime collaborator Steven Spielberg, who has worked with both Lucas and Kennedy for decades, said, "I feel even in this room. We needed to define what producers do. Producers do whatever the heck it takes. Courage and imagination and utter lack of intimidation. The producer needs to know everybody's job and not how to do them, but how they are done well, which is what makes George and Kathy so deserving of this recognition." Now, I want you to just understand that there have been people that they've left Lucasfilm, and they've said that Kathleen Kennedy's management style is she's an extreme micromanager. Like you will get emails about another email you had, and then an email after that will follow, and then a phone call. I mean, it gets to a point where people just kind of get worn down and leave. George Lucas, he's kind of like a quiet intellectual. He'll like say something profound. He will, you know, he's very, how do you say, precise in his words. He doesn't drone on and on like I do. Uh, so it says here, he concluded his introduction by noting that these two titans are still just like kids playing in a sandbox. So it is 1 plus 1 equals 175. That's the number of projects that they have done together and apart. 175. Okay, so here are the two speeches. So I'm going to read George Lucas's first. Okay, so you get an idea of the mind behind this man. Lucas thanked his former mentor, Francis Ford Coppola, legendary director, before giving an impassioned speech about a producer's role in filmmaking. Quote, "To me, that's the first and foremost job of a producer, which is to do the impossible. And you do it every single day. And then every single day, something comes along to destroy everything you've done." Very true. "And you have to pick it all up at lunch and figure out a new way to finish the movie in conjunction with the director, and it's daunting to say the least. But a producer never works alone. One, you have to have a great crew. I've always had the best crews," he said. "I couldn't have done it without them. And so I think my job also is to gather them all together and inspire them to be the best they can be." I mean, what a humble thing to say. He's pointing out that his success isn't just his own. He didn't build it himself, the whole thing. He had a lot of wonderful people that he worked with, and he acknowledged that it was those people that contributed and helped him along the way. And then he talked about, he saw himself as mentoring other people to be better. I mean, I think that's just fantastic. That's a real leader. That's a visionary. Now let's read Kathleen Kennedy's. Better brace yourselves for this one. I don't know why, but I'm not surprised, but I'm always surprised though when people say things like this. It's just like, what planet do you live on? So, okay, in her acceptance speech, Kennedy noted, and before I say this, this is the Hollywood Reporter reporting this. This is a site that just like basically advertises for Hollywood. So they're not cherry picking this to make her look bad. Okay. So in her acceptance speech, Kennedy noted she met Spielberg and Lucas at the dawning of a new age for the film industry. Okay. "We worked side by side through one revolution in our industry after another. Revolutions not only in the means of movie making, here we go, and in the ways movies reach audiences, but also in the composition of our business." I wonder what the composition she's talking about. Could it be the composition of the sets, of the props, of the costumes? I think not. She said, "As women, artists of color, LGBTQ, and differently labeled artists." I don't know what the heck that means. Differently labeled? I guess I could come up with a label and I'm in there. "And producers who have fought for and won a place at the table." Doesn't everybody fight and try to win a place at the table, regardless of what you look like? I mean, unless you're born into the business, you're not given a seat. "Propelling our community toward a more inclusive, diverse, richer, more sophisticated, and nuanced sense of our responsibilities for social, racial, and economic justice." Oh boy. So inclusive, diverse, richer. Well, inclusive, that's not true because Kathleen does not believe in including people that are religious and people that differ with her by even 1/1,000,000th of a degree politically. So that's not true. diverse. I mean, she's only for people that look different. But if you think different at all, if you live differently than her, then she doesn't want you around. Richer? Well, I guess if you're just obsessed with just making cash, you don't care about anything else, I mean, that would be good. More sophisticated? That's kind of a snotty thing to say because I think the original Star Wars are more sophisticated. I think that people that work all types of jobs have a level of sophistication that maybe she doesn't have. It's kind of a judgmental thing to say. And nuance. Nuance is a pseudo intellectual word. It's a word that people like to say to sound intelligent, but nobody in real life says it. And nuance, sense of our responsibilities for social, racial, and economic justice. So racial justice is basically like mob rule based on race. People that do racial justice, that's like rioting. I mean, it's a lot of bad stuff. Economic justice, that basically means like taking from other people money and redistributing it. These are buzzwords. These are like Marxist dog whistles, if you want to call them that. That those are rooted in social, racial, economic justice. That's like Marxist. She's a Marxist, basically. There's no one that I would rather share this moment with more than my friend. Yeah, the guy that you didn't listen to. My mentor and the greatest master Jedi of them all, George. Isn't it interesting that in the prequels, Anakin sits down with Emperor Palpatine. He doesn't know that he's Emperor Palpatine. Emperor Palpatine talks to him about how, I think it was like Darth Sidious or one of these like Darth like Sith lords had an apprentice and that he mentored and he taught him all of his tricks and he taught him all this wisdom and how to do things. And then right when he started to get a little bit weak, just wasn't 100% onto his game, the apprentice stabbed him right in the back and dethroned him and took over with no mercy. Interesting, right? It's almost like it kind of played out in real life. But anyway, it's just kind of funny that George Lucas has like created so many wonderful stories. And then you have, this lady who has kind of just been along for the ride, but she's sharing in this ceremony that's meant to honor. I mean, really, the only reason why people are there is because of George Lucas, or they show up, because they just want Kathleen to see them because she has all the power right now. But it's just really crazy. We're living in a clown world right now. But what do you think? Do you think it's cool that both Kathleen Kennedy and George Lucas were honored at the same event? Or do you think it's absolutely absurd that George would have to share the spotlight with a person who didn't really create anything? Comment below, let me know. And as always, if you want to get future rants, reviews, or original content, click subscribe. Later.